Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm letting my brain fly. You know how I am. If you follow me by now, you know I'm always trying to find solutions for everybody's problems. So this is what I'm looking at. It was announced today that the Phoenix Suns, this is probably common knowledge, but just something that gives us perspectives to what I'm talking about. Phoenix Suns have themselves over the salary cap and into the luxury tax without Aiton even being accounted for. So they have to let go of Aiton out of sheer necessity based on their cap situation, and will still need to try to unload salary to find themselves in a more advantageous position. The Suns are in a very bad spot, and they're having a hard time keeping their team together because of that Chris Paul contract um, that they should not have offered him. I'm sorry, I like Chris Paul and I think he's fantastic and he's deserving of that money. He's earned it, but Phoenix shouldn't have been the one giving it to him with these young players down the pipeline and with Devin Booker secure at a max contract. That's just not going to help you when it's time to pay Aiton, and here we are. So I'm thinking, it was reported also that the Brooklyn Nets could be interested in acquiring DeAndre Ayton. Okay, so I was saying that in tongue-in-cheek, thinking that bringing Ayton in place of Kyrie Irving was something I needed to say, you know what, I thought about it and the fit didn't really make as much sense because of Ben Simmons, right? Ben Simmons, Aiton, don't love that fit too much. The athleticism and is crazy. The power and the strength that they could provide is crazy. The timeline matches up, but I just think you need so much shooting. Now they do have shooting, but it's a hell of a risk. It's a hell of a match. It's a space floor problem in theory, but I think it's a chance that the Brooklyn Nets may have some interest. Okay, so we got those two things out of the way. Now, here comes the Russell Westbrook contract. The Lakers need to get rid of it. The Lakers are trying to land Kyrie Irving. We're trying to get the the Brooklyn Nets to see the fruit and making that trade now rather than later. Well, how do we do that? By getting them eight. And why in the world would the Suns take on the Russell Westbrook contract? Because they need the cap space, with or without it. They need it. And Russell Westbrook will help them provide $47 million of free cap space. All they got to do is unleash something else that helps to make those match up in theory. Because that would have to be a sign and trade. They would take on Westbrook. Nah, that would work. The only thing that would need to happen is Ayton would have to sign a max deal with the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets would have to be willing to pay Ayton the salaries to make this make sense. Or it would have to be made up in a different somehow, which is it's manageable. It's very manageable. So yeah, that's how that works. That's exactly how that works. We can help the Phoenix Suns and Sarver get out of that situation if he would be willing to do a sign and trade all the way around, taking on the Westbrook's contract somehow. Now that would put him in a luxury tax in the wildest way this season, but it would immediately get him out of it next season if my theory is correct. $47 million to free up in one situation. That's exactly what they need. Now, how best to make that make sense so he's not paying $1 billion for the season? I ain't worked that part out in my head, and I don't really know if this really makes sense, to be honest with you, if this all can actually happen. But brainstorming it and trying to figure out just the framework of something that can make all of this work out, Ayton, Brooklyn, Westbrook, and the cap space free or upper bubble thingy that I always tell you guys about to Phoenix, Kyrie comes to us. It matches up. It matches up if numbers are situated in such a way where teams would have to do a lot of creative stuff. You'd have to take some contracts here from there, over here, take a trade exception from over here. You know, we'd have to add another team probably. It would not be a very simple thing to do. You would have to figure out if Brooklyn would be willing to do all of this, take on Ayton and Ben Simmons, unless they want to move Ben Simmons instead of Kyrie Irving, but that doesn't help us. That defeats the purpose for us getting involved. We don't necessarily want to bring in Ben Simmons. We want to bring in Kyrie. And I'm pretty sure Brooklyn would be willing to get rid of Kyrie, given the fact they would be bringing in Ayton in the process of doing so. That's what my brain is telling me. It makes sense. I did the trade tracker, and it wouldn't allow me to try the trade because Ayton is not a free agent, but you can definitely do a sign and trade. Now, I don't know what the incentive would be for him to want to do a sign and trade to facilitate anything because he's unrestricted from my understanding. But nevertheless, when you consider facilitating him to Brooklyn, could possibly also add some other pieces with him in a trade like this, you may want to say, well, you're making your team better. I don't know. But this is where my head's going. Maybe we could somehow find out if this actually makes sense, if this can actually be done. But that's how I see it, man. Because these teams, from what I understand, have interest in these players. Brooklyn has interest in Ayton. And there's nothing that can make those salaries match. If he's going to sign outright, it's going to be an outright signing, but they would have to remove Kyrie's contract in order to create space to sign Ayton anyway, or Durant or Ben Simmons. And I'm thinking Kyrie makes the most sense given all the stuff that we've been talking about. So that would have to comes to us. We'll take that 37. Thank you very much. Phoenix takes the 44, maybe stretch it, waive it, do whatever they have to do with it. Russell Westbrook, maybe they even put him on the team, match him up with Chris Paul and hate what they see for a year. Poof, $47 million worth of cap space, man. That can fix a lot of problems for Robert Sarver in his situation in Phoenix. Immediately putting him in position to try to acquire another big player, a center, somebody to replace Ayton a year from now. Maybe get some things situated. Chris Paul's contract maybe matures a little bit. Maybe you move on from that. Start bringing Devin Booker more young talent to play around with. Maybe even, hell, if you're like me, you trade Chris Paul right now. If you could try to find a way to trade Chris Paul for, I don't know, DeJounte Murray or something like that, I'm doing that. And why DeJounte Murray is on the trade block to begin with is crazy to me. And I wouldn't do that if I'm Phoenix, by the way. But nevertheless, San Antonio, by the way. But then again, if I'm San Antonio, I ain't trading DeJounte anyway. That's a whole other conversation, whatever. If they're shopping him, that's an option. Because what I would want to do is I would want to turn Chris Paul into a younger player with a contract that makes more sense. If my team is about to suck, he needs to move into a situation where he can win. You don't want him attached to Devin Booker in a losing situation. And you don't want Devin Booker having to go into a losing season with an older point guard next to him when you could have turned that point guard into something that makes more sense for his timeline, especially if he's losing Ayton anyway. What about Mikal Bridges? You got to make sure this continues to be a decent squad. You can't go tumbling completely off a cliff if you're Phoenix. Look at it as a retool year if you take on the Westbrook contract, though, that allows you to kind of pull a Golden State and let some players on the back of your bench maybe mature, maybe take on some projects, see if something works, maybe trade for a young player or something like that. Try to make your timeline make a little more sense. I don't know what Phoenix wants to do, but they're about to lose Ayton and they're still over the luxury tax, so they better figure something out. Because if they're going into this season with JaVale McGee being their starting center and they want to go into luxury tax with that being your situation, you're going to make the playoffs because Devin Booker and Chris Paul get you there. But that team they're heading down the toilet quickly. So they should probably want to free up cap space as soon as humanly possible. And that $47 million contract is one easy way to do that. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. That's an easy way to do it, Phoenix. So that's what I'm looking at, man. That's exactly what I'm looking at. The Phoenix Suns should definitely want Westbrook's contract given the fact of their situation. They should want that to come off their books at the end of next season somehow. Even if they don't trade for it now, if I'm Phoenix, I'm trying to trade for it at the deadline. I am. I want that thing because I need that money off my books. So, yeah, Phoenix should open up as a candidate for that if they're thinking clearly. So, that's what just came to mind, man. We're going to find a way to get this Russell Westbrook contract up out of here, man. We're going to find a way. Shoot, we're going to find a way. I'm going to let people know, hey, you have a need for it, whether you see it or not. I'm going to tell you I see the need that you have. You have it, Phoenix. You could use that damn thing. You could use it. So, that's something I'm looking at. Yeah, hopefully the Lakers can find a way to do that, man. I think the energy yesterday for Russell Westbrook wasn't proper for what it is. That's actually the case. So I'm going to take a couple seconds to tell the truth. Russell Westbrook's contract that he signed yesterday was money he already earned based on things that he did many years ago. And I may have said this already, but I'm going to say it right now. That contract was signed as a max contract or super max, whatever the actual term is, with it increasing every year as a bonus, more or less, for what you already have done based on the fact that you've earned this contract, right? Because you're not going to get that contract unless you've done certain things in this career and have reached a certain pinnacle. So That's why it's structured in such a way where it makes more money as it increases. So this is supposed to be more or less his farewell contract. So that he played bad last year and that he opt in to that contract at the final year, which is supposed to be his congratulations portion of the contract, he deserves congratulations for being able to have accomplished so much as to receive that offer in the first place from the Rockets. So that is what the energy should be. Congratulations, Russell Westbrook, on earning your way to a contract that would allow you to be compensated at $47 million in one setting. There's a reason why that $47 million contract isn't, expiring contract isn't something that's found everywhere, which is why I sell it as valuable. It's because you got to be a certain type of player to even have that type of contract. You're not going to get that unless you've done the things that Russell Westbrook has done, and many haven't, which is why the contract is valuable in my opinion, because you can free up that much in one setting, and which is why Russell Westbrook's deserving of congratulations for opting in and ultimately securing that money. So congratulations to Russell Westbrook and his family for securing that bag. It wasn't about last season. It's about the last several seasons that took place prior to the Rockets season for which they paid him. Everything he did in OKC, all them triple doubles, the MVP season, the year after KD left when that team was not very good and he was holding them down, all of that is why he earned $47 million. Not because he was not very good last year for the Lakers, and certainly not because the Lakers desired to give him that particular contract. That's just not the truth. So that's what I wanted to say, man. It deserved to be said. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.